The lore of Sonic the Hedgehog is convoluted and weird at best. And because of so many false starts, there isn't really a canon. I'm Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 Sonic fan theories that change everything. Number 10, regarding the fact that Sonic looks different now than he used to, modern Sonic versus classic Sonic. There's a theory that Bubsy, the failed 90s attempt at competition for Mario and Sonic, spent his dormant years impersonating Sonic. People point to the shape of Bubsy's head as closer to modern Sonic than one might expect. And although I don't put a lot of credence into this theory, as that would involve believing that two competing companies intertwined their lore in such a bizarre and frankly unproductive way, but there is one thing that does make me at least go, that would make sense, and that is that Bubsy sucked. And this is not to take a crap on the good Sonic games over the last couple decades, but they are few and far between. When they hit, they really hit, but they usually don't. I'd like to say that Sonic Mania is the end of that, but hey, we got another Sonic game coming this year, so, there's still a chance to fuck it up. Here's to Sonic Mania 2 whenever that happens. Number 9. There's a fan theory that the Sonic the Hedgehog games exist in several parallel timelines, much like Legend of Zelda. Seriously, thanks Legend of Zelda for doing that and making it so every game that doesn't necessarily have a continued continuity, somebody says has a timeline like your timeline, Legend of Zelda. Thanks so much for that. But anyway, it generally separates everything into a couple of different versions of each timeline. A classic timeline, the adventure timeline, the extended classic timeline, which includes Sonic 4 episodes 1 and 2, and a few of the handheld titles. Oddly enough, they theorize Knuckles Chaotix doesn't even happen unless Sonic fails to achieve the good future in Sonic CD. But the amount of organization for any of this to be true is not something I would put into the hands of the people who have made the Sonic games for a long time. Yeah. Number 8, there is a theory that Sonic is an illegitimate child. In a lot of Sonic media, Sonic has an Uncle Chuck, and that is the only family he has whatsoever. Some people theorize that he is in fact Sonic's father, and that the reason Eggman was able to take over was because Sonic's mom, who was going to take over, had an illegitimate child with Uncle Chuck. Whether or not you believe that probably depends on two things. First, that you don't accept the explanation that Sonic's mom and dad were roboticized and Uncle Chuck just raised him. And second, you buy into anything in any of those, timelines. Sonic has just no real continuity. Even between all of the media that seems like it's supposed to have continuity, there's no continuity. So take anything that is lore-oriented with a grain of salt. Number 7, and this is a very interesting one. Someone came up with the theory that the greatest evidence of a multiverse, a series of parallel universes possibly going on forever, and we simply live in the universe in which Sonic the Hedgehog never goes away. No matter how many times Sonic fails, this is not the timeline where he goes away. Now, one has to keep in mind that if there is a multiverse out there where Sonic was allowed to die after failing more than once, they probably wouldn't have had Sonic Mania. So, I guess in that respect, this is the best timeline. Number 6. Sonic 06 is bad on purpose. And no, not Sega made the decision to make the game bad, although that's the implication here. It's actually a lore-oriented theory. Mephiles, which is basically the devil, and the bad guy in Sonic 06, intentionally made the game bad. Now, in the real world, our world, how bad the game was actually kinda killed Sonic. Fortunately, they were able to revive him with some games that weren't bad, but there is at least one person who attributes that to the villain in Sonic 06. Now, I kind of feel like this one exists so that somebody could not feel like there's such a horrible Sonic game out there, because if it's intentional, it's more art than a mistake. But always keep in mind, once it's a mistake, twice is jazz. So, but I don't know, what is 10? What is 10 of 10 mistakes? Maybe more, I don't even know. Number 5, in Sonic Adventure 2, Team Hero are legitimately terrorists. They recklessly endanger lives and property, and possibly even end up killing civilians. The destruction they bring is on a high level. Tails destroys a bunch of the Golden Gate Bridge, Sonic blows up an island and warns no one. City Escape is essentially a series of property destruction, and Tails literally breaks into prison to free a convicted criminal by the name of Sonic the Hedgehog. Number 4, the events of Sonic Adventure are because people wanted to raise Chow. You know, the little VMU baby Tamagotchi type mini game that you could play both inside and on the memory card with a screen itself. Chaos, the big bad of the game, was revealed to be basically just wanting to care for its children, the Chow babies. Now, it's so deep, there's Chow all over the place, presumably to attract humans into various areas, like in a hotel. Having Chow in a hotel might, well, make the hotel more fun to be at and therefore more profitable. And in a way, that's kind of slavery, because the Chow don't get paid. And they're sentient. Don't tell me those things aren't sentient. I don't know, if I'm honest, this sounds pretty logical to me. If I was a big old monster who attacked people when it was pissed off, and I knew all my little children were being enslaved for profit, I'd probably start doing what Chaos was doing. Number 3, there's a theory for why Sonic doesn't age. After all, he is only 15 and has been going on adventures for 25 years, although keeping in mind that all of the technology doesn't seem to progress a lot on the planet, so these adventures could all take place in, you know, the span of a fairly short period of time. But beyond that, the theory states that as he goes fast, approaching the speed of light, he continually slows down time for himself. Now, this actually does conform with the theory of relativity, energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, which can be branched off to theorize that time passes differently depending on the speed that you're going at, although its effects aren't really measurable by any means at the moment. Let's still keep in mind that the games probably took place over a fairly short period of time. Number 2, Sonic the Hedgehog preaches anti-authoritarianism, environmentalism, and anti-imperialism. Ooh-hoo-hoo. More than a few Sonic games are about weapons of mass destruction reaching the wrong hands, but there's some much more interesting ones if you think about it in recent Sonic games, the decent ones, obviously. Sonic Colors is about how humans might act if nobody makes any rules when we start exploring space. Sonic Lost World is about how Eggman enslaves a foreign people, similarly to how American corporations might use cheap slave labor in some other country. I mean, it requires a grasp of things that have happened during the history of modern society, but yeah, the parallels in Sonic the Hedgehog to actual revolutionary thinking are actually pretty astounding, especially if you consider the terrorism one too. And finally, number 1, Dr. Eggman is evil because he suffers from a debilitating disease. There's a disease called Cushing syndrome, in which you get rapid weight gain in the trunk and face, wasting of the muscles in the arms and legs, a rounded face, extra facial hair growth, and baldness. Kinda sounds like Eggman. It's a disease that actually comes along with possible depression, anxiety, as well as even psychosis. Now, it's maybe a little bit of a reach, especially because he has totally embraced the nickname of Eggman to the point where that is his primary identity at this point in the franchise.
I am the Eggman. That's what I am. I am the Eggman. I got the master plan.
So I don't know, maybe he's not actually sick in some way, at least physically. Obviously he's kind of a monster, mentally speaking, but still. What was your favorite Sonic fan theory? Do you have others? Leave them in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, click like, and if you're not subscribed, now would be a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.